Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Corey, better known as the C-Man, and I want to welcome you to another edition of the C-Man's Cinema Sit Down. If you've been watching and playing along, you know we're on my little movie catch-up journey. A bunch of movies that had come out during my COVID quarantine I needed to go see. And over the course of the week, I've had some time to see some of those things. And what's nice is, you know, I was excited for everything I went and saw, but sometimes movies don't quite hit the way you want to. For instance, for me, Snake Eyes didn't do what I was hoping that it was going to do, and it missed the mark. If you want to know why it missed the mark and all my thoughts around that, you can check them out, mostly spoiler-free, right up there. But what's nice is when you have a movie that doesn't quite hit, and then you go see another movie that you were waiting for, and that movie hits, it almost hits like 10 times better because you need the pick-me-up. And this was the exact movie I needed to pick me up after Snake Eyes. I'm a massive M. Night fan. During my quarantine, I binged Servant, and while it's not his, right? Like, he's not the creator, he's not the main writer, he only directs a couple episodes, writes, I think, a couple episodes, but he produces the whole thing. It feels like an M. Night property, but it wasn't his, and you know it's not his. And after watching something that felt so much like M. Night, and you could definitely see how he helped develop that show, I was dying to see like an original M. Night movie. And while he's given us Split and Glass, both originals, they tie into a larger overall story, so it feels like it's been a real long time since we got a movie like this from M. Night. And it did all the things I was hoping it would do. I don't know if it'll hit for everybody, but hey, that's M. Night in a nutshell, right? Like, you either dig this guy or you don't dig this guy. And I don't think this movie's going to change that theory. So I really dug it, and if you want to know why, you want to know what I'm talking about, why don't you pull up a chair, take a seat, we're getting ready to dive in spoiler-free into Old, and what a freaking cool movie, man. Right from jump, I was in just on the concept. Like, you have a group of people, they're brought to this private, secluded beach, and while there, they get trapped. They can't leave, and they start aging rapidly. Like, I think it's like a year every 2 hours, like every 3 or 4 hours or something. Like, I don't remember what the exact math was, but it was like you lose 2 years of your life in like an hour or something like that. It's wild, and just that from a concept standpoint, where you have a whole slew of characters that are all different ages. You have kids, you have middle-aged people, you have older people, and to watch how it all unfolds, and to watch how M. Night weaves all these stories together. Like, this is a group of strangers for the most part. Like, they all have their pocket of people that they came with. But for the most part, like, it's a group of strangers dealing with a very, very crazy situation. It's one of those things where, specifically, like with the kids, that's where you start to physically see it, because they're gonna grow a lot. It's so fun to watch how like people react and start to be like, what's wrong? Something is going on. Why is nobody paying attention to this? Because there's all sorts of things at play. And what I think M. Night does here, besides just having a wonderful concept, is executing on what he does really, really well. From a story standpoint, he creates phenomenal suspense. Like, there are edgy your seat, like, oh god, what's gonna happen? Moments, which I live for from him. He builds he builds a story that allows you to connect with all of the characters, and like, you're able to find sympathy for all of them, even when they're acting not the way that maybe they should be acting. And the way that he's able to draw you in and bring you close to certain characters, and then slowly bring you close to other characters, like, he just has a very rich group for this movie, and where he decides to take all of those different stories, from the kids to, some of the adults, specifically somebody like Abby Lee. Like, there's a very specific thing about her, and from a character concept standpoint, where that allows M. Night to take that character. Wow, dude, I mean, like, visuals like you've never seen, absolutely, like, horrific, nightmare-inducing imagery, like, just really, really cool stuff. And if you see me doing this, it's because my glasses are currently at my girlfriend's, and these are my backup, used to be new, now they're old, glasses that are broken. So if you see me grabbing, it's because they need to be fixed. And that one, the arm fell off. But I digress. What he's just able to do conceptually with each of these characters brings you to really, really cool places and helps the movie just flow naturally. And it makes you buy into the world that he's building and the story that he's telling, and you want to go on this journey and you want to find the answers out. And that's one thing that I think M. Night does phenomenally in all of his movies, and he certainly does it here with Old. Then, of course, the end of the movie is where you make or break in M. Night. Like, some people love his twists, some people don't love his twists. There are people like me who are kind of split depending on the movie, but now as I watch more and just understand like who he is as a filmmaker, pretty much everything M. Night does is something that I really enjoy outside of like The Last Airbender, but that's not like a typical M. Night movie. Like when M. Night's doing M. Night, I'm here for it. And this ending, I'm sure, will be divisive amongst audiences and probably split certain parts of the audience. But one thing that it should definitely do, and one of the things that I love about M. Night, is it creates conversation. You are going to want to talk about this movie when you get to the end of it. Because what the reveal is and where he takes it, it just begs and calls for conversation. And some of the morality things around the conversations you might have with this movie are just, they're fascinating and they're a ton of fun, and like it's what you want from a movie. For me, I really love when a movie can make you want to talk about it. Like after you see a movie, you shouldn't ride home silently. You should be talking about all the cool stuff, and that's the thing that I love about M. Night, is he makes you discuss the film based on the end. But then there's so much to discuss because he does so many different things. The story and the script, lots of different places to go and things to talk about and way to analyze characters and what he does conceptually. There is one scene that features Vicky Creep's Priska. Mind-blowing. It's probably the most harrowing scene in the whole movie and like most edge of your seat, like, oh my god! I love that stuff, and he does lots of it in the script for the suspense building that he does. And his brand of suspense, while it might not always mesh or end up being what people want it to be at the end, man, does it work while he is building a movie. And the other thing that he does that I love, I love to talk about the technical elements of a movie and the way that he moves his camera, where he puts his camera. The amount of times, it's a very M. Night thing to do this. Where it's like the whole screen is just empty and you have like half a face or something like that. Like he puts you into a corner where there's a lot of open area, and the way that he does things like that and adapts it differently in all of his movies. Like there are just shots that are M. Night shots, but he never gives you like the same shot twice. And the way that he plays with different things and the meaning behind the things that he does with the camera, like certain camera movements and positions help tell the story visually, and I love the kind of visual storyteller M. Night is. So here, what he's doing with Old really, really worked for me. And what he does from a story standpoint and a universe standpoint, what he builds, it allows his cast to thrive. And that's another thing that M. Night is really, really good at doing. And here, you have a wonderful collection of people you might not be familiar with and other people that you're super familiar with. And everybody that's in this movie does an excellent job. And the best way I think to talk about them is to kind of break them down into their groupings. So you have Gael Garcia Bernal and Vicky Creeps. They are a husband and wife, Guy and Priska. They have 2 kids, Trent and Maddox, and the kids start at 11, Maddox, and 6 for Trent. And then they obviously age up. And the 2 actors that are most recognizable and that are in the movie the most for those characters are Alex Wolff and Thomasin McKenzie. And their story in particular is my favorite because the casting is flawless. You honestly believe that you are watching these 2, and then Abby Lee's character has a daughter that I can't remember her name right now, but you literally watch these 3 kids age up throughout the course of this movie, and they get to like, we'll just say adult status. Like they're definitely adults by the end of the movie. And watching them grow, it feels like you're just watching 3 people naturally grow. The casting was insanely good. And what you're able to do with Maddox and Trent, I just really, really dug. Like, it gave Wolff and McKenzie really interesting things to do from an acting standpoint. Like, you have 2 actors who, a few hours ago, were, like I said, 6 and 11. And now, they're, way older than that. And watching Wolff and McKenzie, like, it's one of these things, one of the things that's a little wonky in the movie is the mythos around what happens when you age, and like there seems to be development in the brain as well, and there are definitely things that like naturally the body calls to or makes you do, and it kind of allows them to figure out some things, and that's fine. I can kind of get like you get smarter as you age up, even if you haven't learned anything. fine. Specifically, someone like Trent, who's the youngest in the group, he's a really, really smart kid. So, like, all right, I get it. But there are certain like things that they wouldn't know at their ages that they end up talking about. That's the only wonky thing in the movie for me. But what I loved that it gave Wolf and Mackenzie the ability to do was to play a 6 and an 11-year-old in a much older body. And you see both Wolf and Mackenzie mature a little bit more, like, as the movie goes. But where they start, Wolf, for me, is brilliant. I mean, the outbursts he has, the way he reacts to things. There are moments where you forget he's a 6-year-old, and then something happens, and the way he responds, and the way he responds based on other things that we saw, like from younger versions of him respond to. Oh, it hits, man. Like, it hits in ways where you're like, oh, shoot, that is a 6-year-old kid in there. Same with Mackenzie, specifically her delivery. Like, a lot of her delivery just feels like a much younger person than who Mackenzie is, and that stuff played really well. And what they have going on with Guy and Priska, also really interesting. I think there's certain things going on with both characters as they age that play really well in the movie, and it gives Bernal and Creeps really interesting things to do. And there's, like I said, interesting stuff from a family dynamic just with this group in general, and I liked this group the most. And that's, I think, the way that you're supposed to feel. They're the group that you start the movie with. They're the group that take you pretty much all the way through it, and you kind of see it through them more than anybody else. So I thought they all crushed. Then you have Abby Lee and Rufus Sewell, and then there's an older lady who plays Sewell's mother and has a dog. And that group I enjoyed specifically because of what happens to Sewell's Charles and Lee's Crystal. As I said, Crystal has maybe some of the most striking and like cringe-inducing visuals, and her story is fascinating. And I love the way that M. Night is subtle with her the whole time. And there are points where like she disappears, and you're like, where did she go? And then she comes in and out, and there's elements of her that they set up that are easy to forget. So then when they hit in the end, you're like, oh, damn. And the same with Sewell. The things that happen to him that trigger certain things, and as he ages, the things that change around him. He kind of is a bit of a wild card, and I liked what they used Charles for in the movie. Like, what he is, very helpful to have, but how he ends up playing as he ages, it allowed Sewell to have some really fun moments. So they were probably like my second favorite group, along with the daughter who grows up with Maddox and Trent. Her story, and specifically how it ties to Trent and things that happen. Wow. So like I really dug them. Then you have this nurse, Jaren, played by Ken Lung, and his wife or partner, Patricia, played by Nikki Amuka Bird. Really interesting stuff from both of them as well. There's like an element to Patricia's character that I find very intriguing, and how they play with that. And again, it's something that like you're aware of, and then it's like, oh wait, what? Huh? Oh shoot! Like you almost kind of forget that there's this thing going on. And the way M. Night handles that, and the way specifically Amuka Bird plays it, like the character trait that she has, she commits, and it really, really amplifies the character and what's going on. And Lung is. He's that guy in the movie that I thought felt the most like he was written by M. Night. There are very specific character things and ways that he says stuff where I was like, that's so M. Night. And I just liked how he played within the group, the context of the group, and how he kind of breaks things down. He's the one analytically kind of starts to figure out maybe what's going on with the island. And he's like the only person that can kind of pose a theory, and I kind of liked how they used him for that. Then Eliza Scanlon, there it is. She plays Kara. That's Abby Lee's daughter in the movie. She's the aged up version of this character, Kate, who kind of plays in with the kids. And like I said, I like what she did. Not a ton for her, but she has some wonderful moments with Wolf. And like I said, just story-wise, what they choose to do with the character, really interesting stuff. So I wanted to make sure I shout her out now that I've seen her on the IMDb. It's hard. Sometimes IMDb, man, makes it difficult to read who's where. I don't know. There's like the groupings. Then we have Aaron Pierre, who plays a rapper. There is another character that is attached to that, like to his character, who is a rapper named Midsize Sedan. Oh man, the way in which M. Night decided to talk about rap and the culture of rap currently is not anything I would have ever thought M. Night would have something to say, but what he had to say I really, really thoroughly enjoyed. And what Aaron Pierre does and what happens with the character that's tied to him, like that was a really interesting story too, and it's one of like the first stories you get kind of pulled into when you get to the beach, and there, again, interesting stuff going on with him and just where he sits throughout the course of the movie and how it plays into what's going on with different characters. I just like the places that M. Night was going. And then we have two other characters. He really stacked this. There's so many people. But Gustav Hamarston and Francesca Eastwood, they work at the hotel resort that everybody is at. And what they do as the resort manager and like his main assistant named Madrid, I liked both of them. I thought they were very striking. They popped on camera, and what they were asked to do was stuff that, like, when you're watching an M. Night movie, that I don't want to give anything away, but like where those characters are posited and how they play within the context of the movie, I enjoyed both performances. And then, of course, there's one other actor that we have to mention, M. Night himself. He always cameos in his movie, and he certainly cameos here. This might be one of the biggest cameos for M. Night, and I was here for it. And I'm interested to see. I gotta go like deep diving on IMDb and reading to see if he brought his daughter along for any of this, because she wrote and directed the last finale episode of season 2 of Servant, which was really cool to watch. Like, you could see how his daughter has learned from him. So I'd be interested to see if she was involved at all here. And it's one of those moments where it's like when he's on camera, I kind of almost feel like maybe she was behind it. That'd be something that was really cool if that's how it played. But as far as what they ask M. Night to do on camera, it is a very M. Night performance. He's not a professional actor, but he builds the characters that he takes or the moments where he shows up to be really important, and there's always just this sincereness to his delivery that just, for whatever reason, always works no matter what they ask him to do. And like I said, here he's got a bit of a bigger role, and I just enjoy when he pops up on screen. I immediately start smiling because I'm like, one, I love everything that you have done as far as making this movie, and I love that you always put yourself in your movies. And like I said, they usually have pretty important moments when his characters show up. So you can guarantee yourself another solid cameo from Mr. M. Night himself. And like I said, there's a couple wonky moments with the script and some of the mythos stuff, but for the most part, I mean, this hits like an M. Night movie, man. He's got twists and turns. It's an interesting idea. It builds wonderful suspense and terror at times, and brings you to a place that when you leave the theater, whether you end up liking it or not, based on what his final decision is, it's going to be a movie that you talk about. And I love film that creates conversation. And that's one of the reasons that I love M. Night as much as I do, because almost all of his films create conversation. So for me, Old was a big old hit, man. I really, really enjoyed it. So that means it's time for a score. So let's get the C-Maniacs on up. And like I said, I mean, if you are an M. Night fan, this should be a movie that hits for you, because M. Night does all the things that M. Night is great at doing. Solid script that allows you to have an attachment with the characters, to invest in the characters, an interesting world to explore, and a concept that allows him technically to do wonderful things with the camera and visual storytelling, and also create phenomenal suspense. And as always, he's got a couple twists for you that I think really work. And when you add in the cast and how great the performances are, and just the character concepts for everybody, and everything that goes into the production and the score, it all really works. So for the C-Man, I gots to go 4.5 C-Maniacs out of 5. Not quite perfect. Probably not my favorite M. Night movie, but definitely in the upper tier. Simply because I walked out of that movie going, I haven't stopped thinking. I had not stopped thinking about the movie, and it's been a while since he gave me a movie that did that. So for me, 4.5 C-Maniacs out of 5. Now I want to know what you're thinking. Did you love Old? Did you not care for Old? Like I said, M. Night, more than any other writer-director, seems to continually split audiences. And some movies are more positive, some movies are more negative. Where does Old fall for you? And no matter where you fall, good or bad, what worked or didn't work in the movie? What were the things you noticed from a technical standpoint, a story standpoint, character concepts, acting performances, anything you got there? What are you thinking about? And if you haven't seen Old, has the C-Man enticed you? Are you an M. Night fan? Not an M. Night fan? Maybe you're a Suspense fan? Is this something that, makes you go, I want to see this. Now listen to the C-Man, you're like, I'm going to go see it. Or this just isn't your cup of tea. Anything you got to say about old, good, bad, or indifferent goes down below in the comment section. Look forward to talking to you down there. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you're new, you want to come hang out with the C-Man anytime, we're talking movies, TV, trailer, reactions, you want to be here as I finish my catch-up or just as we move forward. We got a bunch of movies coming that I'm excited to see. You want to be here for all that. Anytime a trailer pops up, you know I'm going to try to cover it. You want to show a little love and support and you haven't yet, come join C-Maniac Nation by jumping over there, hitting that subscribe button, hit that little bell if you want those alerts. And until next time, for the C-Man's Cinema Sit Down, I've been the C-Man. I'm signing off. Peace.
Oh,
hey, what's going on? You must be sticking around because you're looking for more content featuring this guy. Well, guess what? You're in the right place. You can check out more videos right here and right here. And if you have and you want to come join that C-Maniac Nation, you can hit that subscribe right over there.